Okay, so good morning. My name is Midana Anazodo, and I am an imaging physicist at the Montreal Neurological Institute, which is at McGill University in Montreal, Canada. My research is mostly PET and MRI, brain imaging techniques that are typically non-contrast or with molecular imaging, which is the PET side. And this is a program that my lab is running along with the lab of Dr. Jones Mungalosh in Mara, Uganda, Dr. Osama at the Center for Brain and Health in NYU Abu Dhabi, and Dr. Stefan Duplessis at Stellenbosch University in Cape Town. So this is a really nice collaboration, and together we're hoping that over the next few months, you guys will gain some knowledge and skills on how to build local MRI systems. So today we're just going to learn a little bit about what the program is, what to expect. This is a different program. If you've taken summer schools before or you've done workshops before, even workshops in imaging, you're going to find that this is slightly different. And so we wanted to make sure that today we all kind of get a sense of what the program is, what to expect, and how the program works. Right? So the agenda for this onboarding session is I'm going to go over the program overview, the format, delivered expectation, the teams, and I'm going to tell you what that is in a second, networking, and we're going to take a group photo at the end. And obviously, we're all here to learn how to build a preclinical low-field MRI system. So we're going to start off with what preclinical imaging is and why we are thinking of building preclinical imaging systems. So for those of you that don't know what MRI is, because we saw a few of that, some of you are vets or people that do microscopy imaging or small animal imaging with microscopy, and you're not wanting to do biomedical imaging with MRI. Well, this is what a brain MRI of a rat looks like. And this is not the type of images you're going to get, because this is images acquired on a high field system. But this is the type of images that, with a little bit of enhancement and improvement, and to a certain extent, we might be able to get. This is an example of a study where the investigators were trying to look at the well, I say downstream effects of the brain outcomes from chronic hypertension. So they use a renal occlusion model to induce hypertension and then look at brain outcomes. And one of those brain outcomes is focal cortical edema, which you can see here as very high uptake or high intense signals on the MRI. So this is really what MRI is really nice and used for. And there's lots of examples of studies that have been done in small animals like rat, mice. With MRI, we can look at the spine, the lung, the liver, the kidney, the knee, the heart, the vessels, and obviously also the brain. And traditionally, a lot of these systems, I think that I have animation off. Oh, yeah, sorry. Traditionally, most of these imaging systems are done on high field. For example, this is a 7 Tesla MRI system. The animal of the mice or the rat is in the bore of the magnet. That's kind of the bed that you push into the bore. It could be a small bore, a wide bore, for example, with this Bruker system that's a little bit wide bore. And sometimes some of these wide bore scanners also have a PET detector, so positron emission tomography detector, that is sometimes inserted or attached so that you can actually do simultaneous PET MRI with some of these bigger bore high field systems. In the past, there have been some 1.5 Tesla permanent magnet preclinical systems. These are not really in production. I mean, I don't even know if this is still in use. But this is just to give an example of some of the high field systems. There's also 4 Tesla benchtop scanners. And again, there are even much higher field. There is 15.4 T or 14.5 T systems as well. But one thing that all the systems have in common is that you can see the footprint. They're pretty large scanners. They take up a lot of space. As you can see, they require a lot of infrastructure like helium to power and run the magnet. So this is, sometimes could be a huge barrier to a lot of people wanting to be able to do MRI scans on small animal, especially if they want to do drug delivery, drug discovery, or really unique type of experiments that you cannot do on humans. And so there is a need to try to build something like this that is a little bit more compact a little bit more lower footprint, but not as expensive as this permanent magnets. And that's what we're hoping to do because um, at this particular point in places like Africa, where there's a lot of challenge with getting access to MRI, there's really no dedicated preclinical imaging system like what we have here in the West, like these scanners. So there is a gap and a need, and we're hoping that by teaching you guys how to build the scanners at very, very low cost, that we can essentially try to enhance and start to create really nice devices that can actually allow us to do preclinical imaging at very low cost, and also with very low footprint or resources. So the main objective of this program over the next couple months is that we want to build standard MRI skills in hardware development and maintenance. This is very crucial to us because we know that one of the barriers to access to MRI, clinical MRI, so MRI done in people, is that some of these devices are not well maintained. So when the devices are purchased, they do require constant maintenance, and sometimes there is a lack of skill. The biomedical engineers or the engineers that are around the region, and in some cases, some centers don't actually have access to biomedical engineers. So we want to try to see if we can help in that sense by giving you guys standard skills in MR hardware so that you can actually try to use some of the skills to maintain some of the existing scanners in the region. We also want to upscale and advance MRI knowledge because going through this program, if you're not, if an engineer never had any experience or exposure with MRI, you're a physicist, never had any exposure or experience with MRI, you're an imager, like I said, microscopy, so you're in the preclinical space, but you're doing microscopy imaging. We are going to try to advance and upscale your knowledge in MRI. And if you know MRI, for example, you're coming from, say, the engineering space, you know how to build an RF quad, but you've never done pulse sequence programming. We're trying to see if we can leverage that and just give everybody a general understanding of what MRI is and how to go from hardware to image. And do this where we are focusing on people that are practicing in resource constrained settings like across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. We want to be able to provide exponential learning environments. We want to be able to use a case-based approach. So conceptually teach and give you hands-on practical skills that you can now use and build up on as you advance your knowledge in MRI hardware or MRI engineering or even MRI research in general. So we have created a lot of learning environments that will allow you to gain this experiential learning, including when we assemble the scanner on site. And even if you're participating online when we do the scanner installation, when we do the scanner construction, you're still going to be able to get this immersed experiential learning environment. The program really wants to train and retain local expertise because obviously, if you are in any of these resource constrained settings, like in Africa or in Asia or in Latin America, one big problem that we have is we train experts and they leave. Some of us, like myself, are here. So we want to find a way to retain experts as we train them so that we can continue to advance MRI practice both for clinical and preclinical research in Africa and other resource constrained centers like Latin America and Asia. One big thing we do in our training program is that we create a collaborative culture. And I'm going to explain what that is in a second. You will fast soon realize that MRI imaging is not just a one discipline, it's a multidisciplinary process. It requires people from different disciplines to throw their hat together and go from hardware to creating an image. So it takes a lot of collaboration. And also there's multiple disciplines that tend to use imaging. Imaging is a service. If a patient comes in from nephrology, it becomes for imaging. They come in from cardiology, from oncology, from neuro. So imaging is a service, and we work a lot with other disciplines to be able to provide that imaging service. And same goes for research. The people that have research interest in, diabetes, for example, they come to us as imagers. We work with them. So we have to create this collaborative culture and a network of people that really understand what imaging is, because with that we can now drive innovation in imaging with stuff like open source or low cost or cost effective preclinical systems, like the one we're trying to build. So we're going to try to show you and encourage you to get into this collaborative culture. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit when we get into networking. Networking is built into the program. And this is what I meant by the fact that this program is going to be a little bit different from some of the summer schools you've had in the past and some of the workshops you've had in the past. There's a lot of team bonding, a lot of team networking, a lot of team learning that we do in this program to really drive that collaborative culture spirit. The final goal of this project, of this program and this summer school is to create reproducible open source and open science efforts, especially in places where we know that some of these open science efforts are lacking or not well integrated or implemented. So we're creating a load for them right system. We're going to use a lot of open source materials, so materials that other people have developed and shared openly, which means that we have to reciprocate, develop our own methods or integrate or implement, or adapt, and then also share that openly. By doing that, we all get to see and understand and appreciate what open science is. We want to do this in a reproducible manner. And that's one of the reasons why we're trying to build two scanners at the same time, because that will allow us to make sure that we have a really nice protocol, a really nice step-by-step way of being able to build the scanners at the same time, so people at both sites are able to get the same outcome and the same use and the same quality of performance out of their scanners. So this idea of collaborative learning, like I said, this is at the core of how we teach, especially for this summer school. So like I said earlier, the program objective is to really train an interdisciplinary group of people that will collaborate together to build this scanner, because that's how you take it from idea to market to use, is by making sure that the user is part of the process when you're building the system, learning with people that are using the system. We're also learning with people that are actually building the system. And together with this collaborative culture, we can actually build useful systems at much affordable cost, but also get the best use out of it. We really want to drive medical innovation and solutions that are relevant to our communities, especially communities that are in resource constrained settings. And so by taking this collaborative learning approach, we're able to build functional solutions, like I said, and build it quite rapidly. Now, how do we create this collaborative learning environment and culture? Is we use what's called collective intelligence. This is the idea that we all bring something from both our background, academic background, our own background, just how we experience the world. We bring this together when we learn and do stuff together. So when we're building the summer school, as I go through this overview and onboarding, you're going to see quickly that you guys are actually going to be working as a team. So the idea is to tap into what your experience is, what your knowledge, what your skill set is. You engineer, you do pulse programming, you do medical image analysis, you do computer science, because we are building low-field systems that will need AI and deep learning to help us enhance. So being part of that engineering process at the very beginning, you're adding in your collective intelligence, and you're able to actually see the problem better to then come up with much better informed solutions. To really build this idea where every member of the team brings the expertise together and we all shake and bake it and make a very good cake. That's the best way to put it. And one approach we use to make sure that we are embedding this collaborative learning and collective intelligence into our how we train and how we learn is that we actually train people as teams. We don't train individuals. So when you go through this program, you're going to go through this program as a team. You're going to learn together as a team. You're going to do assignments together as a team. You're going to build, and all the milestones, the deliverables are going to be done as a team. So if you read the website and looked at it before you come here, you would have seen that the program goes through 3 steps. The foundation course is a build lab and it's a practicum. Each of these steps, you're going to do it together with a team, right? And I'm going to talk about this in a second. So by really putting people together based on their strengths and weaknesses. I shouldn't say weakness, their strengths, what they need to learn based on their different disciplines, and using this idea of training people as a team. This is how we actually drive this interdisciplinary collaboration that leads to innovative solution And like I said, with rapid record time, but also with less amount of resources. This is a perfect example to really drive this point home, this point of multidisciplinary teams coming together to build a very functional product. So this is a whole body low field, so it's a 0.05 T whole body MRI scanner. We're building 0.05 T brain only rat scanner. So these guys are a lot of farther ahead from where we are, but that's why we'll get there. So this is a whole body. So you can see that you can push the person's head through the scanner. They can flip around and you can do their, you can also go leg in or head in. Either way, this scanner can do multiple parts of the body, as you can see here in the pictures: brain, spine, heart, neck, knee, and abdomen. And if you recall from the rat images, oops, sorry, from the rat images I showed you earlier, I'm going to cycle back here. You see that this is done with a high field system, so 7 Tesla scanner. And this scanner that is more than 10,000 times less in terms of field strength is able to do the same thing: brain, spine, heart, leg, and all of that stuff. And that's because it took a lot of people to build a scanner that could do something like this. You first of all had to have the engineers, the physicists that could actually construct and build a scanner. And that includes building the image acquisition and image analysis process as well, because you're not only building a structure, you're building a software to go with that. You obviously had to have people that know how to acquire high quality images, because when you design the pulse sequences to acquire these images, you have to understand a little bit about the hardware challenges to not be able to propose some software, some sequences that you can use very well on this system, because obviously the system cannot do every single advanced imaging MR imaging modality that's out there, or parameter that's out there. So you really have to have the knowledge people, the MR physicists, the hardware, the techs, the radiographers that know how to scan, the radiologists that will figure out what type of indications or cases that could potentially work on the system, the IT people that have to store the amount of images that are coming in, especially if you're going to start to do deep learning with these images. And in our case, because we're doing preclinical imaging, you need to have techs. That's a veterinary techs, so people that do veterinary medicine. And that's because unlike humans that go into a scanner, most of the time not sedated, because we can lie still, animals, when they're going in to take a scan, we tend to sedate them. So you really have to have technologists that do know how to handle and do animal handling around when you are acquiring the images. So you see that you're starting to build this multidisciplinary team of people that you need just to get really good images out. And obviously for us, especially because we are really working with low signals already, there's a lot of effort to quickly add in deep learning methods that can actually do multiple things: denoise the images, for example, so minimize electromagnetic interference, enhance the image quality. So you need computer scientists, obviously you need physicists that know how to do image or signal processing, and you also need the radiologist, because you can produce artifacts from these deep learning methods. And so if a radiologist is not there to see this is really not like what normal tissue looks like, then you're also not able to build really good models. And obviously, you need to have the user, the people that refer the patients or the subjects, or in this case, the preclinical scans. You need to have those people involved as well. So this is the patient, the frontline physician, family physician, the neuroscientists and scientists that want to use this. So you can see that most of these people, oftentimes you don't have a lot of them where we come from, like where I'm originally from Africa, but same goes for Southeast Asia or Latin America. And even when we do have this, we have an engineer or physicist or computer scientist, some of them don't know much about MRI. So the idea is to bring together people that have already some amount of knowledge and now work with them together, learn, give them the ability to learn together so that they could focus on one problem, which is, in our case, building a really good low field, open source, preclinical system that we can use to do really good rat imaging. And so the idea here is that we have to start first by putting people together as a team. I see that I made some mistakes here, but I'll correct this before you guys get the onboarding material. So what we've done here is we've actually have put you guys together in two teams or two groups actually. So there is the Montreal group that's building a scanner in Montreal, and there is the Cape Town group that's building a scanner in Cape Town. And this is a hybrid program, meaning that some people are on the ground and some people are going to be online. I've designed a program where you guys are still going to work together, even if you're online or in person, to build the scanner. For this to work, we have a team structure. First, each team or each group is going to have people that have hardware capacity, hardware skills. This means skills to put the magnet together, to build the radio frequency coil, to build the grading coil. We have an acquisition team, people that have to put together the acquisition console. So what we're going to use to actually acquire the signal. And we're going to have people that are actually going to try thinking about and working on how to quickly analyze the signal. So look at the performance of the system. So do some performance testing, some quality control, and also be able to even maybe start thinking ahead about how to apply machine learning methods to denoise and enhance the quality of the images. So each site is going to have a hardware sub-team, an acquisition sub-team, and analysis sub-team. That means that together there are 6 teams and 2 groups of people working together. So each team will work together to build one scanner. I mean, each team worked together to build one scanner for their group, and the other team worked together to build one scanner for the other group. So each site has a site director, a team supervisor who are program coordinators, and a team captain. So that means that you guys will have to work really well to elect your team captains, because they're the ones that will really be the what I call it, the people that are submitting the assignments, making sure that everything is moving smoothly within your team, communicating with the next team to get everything gelled up and working, so that if you're online or in person, things are still going to work very well. So with this particular team structure and format, we're able to have this collaborative learning experience so that we can actually be able to quickly, with record time, bring out or make or produce a really good scanner. So one thing you have to do right away, the first thing you guys do on Monday when the program starts, is to pick your team captain. And that means that you guys are going to trust this person, like I said, to literally assignments are handed on time, make sure that you guys are communicating very well if things have to pass between teams, sub-teams. And you cannot swap team or change teams, because we took a lot of time trying to put people together based on the academic information you gave us, so the information in CV, based on your interest, based on your skills. So there's a lot of matchmaking that has happened. So you cannot swap your team. You have to stay in your team and make new friends and also gain new skills. So a lot of this stuff works well because communication is key. So we have created multiple ways of being able to communicate. And one way that we found that works best is to put people on WhatsApp, because a lot of this communication sometimes happen live and in person. So you guys are gonna go into WhatsApp groups based on your team that you've been assigned to, and then start to work together, start to go through materials together, do assignments together, and start to create the method you're gonna use to build the scanner. For this to work very well, we have a strict code of conduct so that we have expected behaviors that will allow everybody to work comfortably and work well without having any issues. I'm going to talk about this in a second. The team assignments on your onboarding, I'm going to discuss that in a second. Right after this onboarding session, you're going to get an email that also includes this welcome package, which is what I'm presenting right now. That includes the program guide, which is essentially what was online, but now sort of bite-sized and put on the onboarding session as a resource. You're also going to get your team assignments. You're going to get this PDF that has your name. You just have to look up your name, find where you are, and then that's your team. And so in your WhatsApp group, if you are, for example, Ronald will join the Cape Town hardware team, and David will join the acquisition Cape Town team, stuff like that. And then you guys will decide within your team who is the team captain. You just have to let us know so that we know who to delegate to and how to connect people. For us to be able to now bring people together that have all of this really unique skill set to build this very highly informed way of making this scanner, we have adopted this what I call it a systematic way of taking a problem from problem to solution. And this is for some of you may have been exposed to this idea of design thinking, this ability to slowly walk through a problem, especially if the problem is complex, and take steps starting from idea to empathizing, which means to understand what the challenges are, what that particular problem is, which means you have to obviously work with people that know about the problem. So, for example, we're trying to build a low field system to image rat brains. We have to actually go talk to vets and neuroscientists or people that have already worked with animal and handled animals to know how we can make sure that when the rat or the mice is in the scanner, that they are still comfortable and they're able to still do the experiments that they would have done if the animals are in the scanner. So the scanner does not become a hindrance. So for some of us that don't do preclinical imaging, this is something that we have to empathize and understand. So we can now define all of the potential pain points, challenges, so we can brainstorm ahead of time to make sure you avoid having those problems. By doing that, you're able to build a better product with a less amount of resources and time and cost. And I did all you guys are going to learn all of this stuff during the program, but the idea is that we're trying to systematically do that. And the best way to be able to ideate or define problems is when you have people from multiple disciplines looking at this problem from different angles, right? And so for us to make this really workable, we've designed this program where it runs through 3 steps: the teach, the try, and the use. Teach, try, use. And the teach is where you learn all of the foundational fundamental concepts about the problem. In this case, we're trying to learn everything that we need to know about how to build an MRI system and use it to acquire a brain image of an animal, of a rat. So in this teach phase, you're learning a lot of didactic information, but in a very conceptual, very case-based way. And then once you have all this background knowledge, you're now going to try out what you've learned. This is where we come in and start to put together the system. And once we put together the system, if that's not where it ends, we don't have to actually use it. Because if we don't actually get to use it, we are not able to test it as a prototype, go back and ideate to reiterate the prototype, and then be able to go through towards implementing and getting it to be used. We're going to spend a little bit of time doing the use phase to really make sure that the system we built can actually be used for at least imaging a rat's brain. It doesn't have to be at the quality of a regular scanner, because that's what some people are doing with deep learning, but want to be able to get a signal that is a useful signal and represents what we think a rat's brain will look like. By going through this process, learning together, learning as peers, learning as teacher and student, you're going to come out of the program with a lot of knowledge that you can actually turn around and run your own small schools to train other people on how to build the scanners. The goal of this program is, if you put the time in, if you put the effort in, if you work through the materials, if you show up, you will leave the program, I believe, knowledgeable enough that you could understand low field imaging, but also maybe even be able to start to understand the basic building blocks and components of MRI. So if you have an MRI scanner in an institution and it's giving a little bit of problem, you might be able to be a bit more knowledgeable on what to actually start to look for in terms of troubleshooting. So we're gonna encourage you to really stick around and go through this 3-phase process of the program, so that you are able to really gain that concrete knowledge, that hands-on, practical, tangible knowledge. The foundation week starts on Monday. It runs to June 28th. It's a Monday to Friday course, meaning that we give you 2 hour content every day, Monday to Friday, from May 26th to June 8th. And I'm going to show you that schedule in a second. And again, to make sure that we are all learning together, we have a midweek meeting that is scheduled. So every team has to pick either Wednesday or Thursday, whichever day that works for you. You have to let us know so we can schedule in your midweek meeting. And I'm going to tell what that midweek meeting is in a second. Actually, we could talk about it right now. So the midweek meeting is where you all come together because you're on your own reading your course content on your own. You come together on the midweek and you guys review the material and actually start to look at your assignment for that week. Discuss it for your week because you have to do the assignment together. By doing those processes, you're also learning each other, learning each other's skills, and actually being able to slowly work towards the process that when you get to start to build a scanner, you know who you can leverage quickly and get somebody that is really good in soldering or somebody that's really good in something because you've gone through this 5 weeks together. So the midweek again is Wednesday or Thursday. You guys have to decide which one works for you, which time works for you. That's up to you guys to schedule that, but it has to be scheduled because that's how you guys actually get to check in and also do kind of start to think around on your assignment. Assignments are due on Friday, and on Saturday, like this, we do a 2 hour tutorial. The tutorial is essentially to go through the course material for that week with everybody. We have a lecturer that come in and goes through that for that whole 5-day course material with you guys. And then we have a go over your assignments, and then we have a Q&A, question and answer. That's just to make sure that everybody is on this page when we move to the next week and next week and the next week. So that's the foundation. It's essentially like regular class, but it's just a little bit more self-paced, a little bit more online. Once we've gone through that and acquired all of the basic fundamental skills we need to learn on how to build a scanner and also acquire images, do our performance testing, and doing this for the mind that we're trying to image a preclinical sample or subject, then we're going to come together and actually put 2 scanners together, one in Montreal and one in Cape Town. There's going to be people on site and there are people online, and you're all going to work together, support the on-site build. This is going to happen in July 7th to July 8th, 18th. And this one is actually the only time in the program where you have to be full-time, meaning that you're there from 8 to 5 type of thing. And so for that 2 weeks, it's just hands-on, 8 to 5. Those online get a check-in because there are daily assignments and exercises, deliverables and exercises. And the people online are the ones that most likely will be more able to do a lot of these exercises. And we're going to go through the exercises as we progress towards the program. So the Build Lab is hybrid, meaning that some people are on site and a lot of people are online, but the online people are participating full on because you're going to start to put together the toolkit of what you're making. Somebody has to start to put it together. And again, this is Monday to Friday, full-time participation. Once you go through the Build Lab, we've actually built the system. We don't have to kind of take a pause and start to see how to use it and tinker. And this is where we start to do a performance testing. We may have to go back and tweak here, tweak there. But over that 2 weeks, the main goal is to put together the toolkit of how we built the system. And again, this is now when you go back to your virtual mode and working again as a group. So there's no course materials to learn. There's no, anything else to learn. At this particular point, you've had the knowledge, you've tried it out, and you're using your knowledge. So a lot of the tasks that you're going to be doing during the practicum is more so towards putting together what you've learned so that you can actually be able to disseminate that and share that. Because remember, we're building an open source device. And so we acquired a lot of that knowledge from other people. So our job is now to share and push that, pay that forward. So that's what you're going to be doing a lot of that work during the practical phase. Again, you're going to go back into your midweek meeting because during the midweek meeting, it's where you double check in and check in to make sure that you have everything you need to put together a toolkit, which is just like a document, the documentation. And we're still going to have 2 hour Saturday tutorial because this is where we start to do transferable skills. So teaching you how to write papers, how to write documents, how to write SOPs, stuff like that, standard operating procedures, stuff like that. So you're going to get some of these transferable skills so that, again, the goal is when you leave the program, you're really knowledgeable enough to build a scanner, but also know how to put together a toolkit, a paper, a standard operating procedure, stuff like that. So that's the format of the program. I'm going to pause here for a second and take a question and then just kind of cycle through the slides. So let's see. I know that the chats are coming in, but I think everybody's just saying hello, which is fantastic. No, there's no funding. This was quite clear on the application and on the website before you applied that the on-site build is self-funded. Okay, so like I said earlier, if you're participating online, you're going to have the same immersive experience. Well, you're going to have comparable immersive experience as people participating on site, and you are going to be supporting them. So what I mean by that is when you're putting together the system, you have to follow along as you're doing that. So we're going to try to have cameras. We are going to have cameras in the build space so that you can see the build happening. But you have to be able to follow the build and put together the toolkit that they're building. So by doing that, you are going to be participating, even if your hands are not touching stuff. Okay. What if you're working? Well, I think in the FAQ section of the website, when you apply to the program units, it did tell you that there is a time commitment, and the time commitment was listed there. So if you're working, there is a time commitment, and I'll talk about what is expected to complete the program later on. Let me just move on. All of the live events, so that we have live seminars, the weekend tutorials, everything that we do live, like this particular session right now, is going to happen on a program platform. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. And it's going to be in South African time. So that's GMT +2 time zone, except for when we do the build lab. The build lab is the only time that the time zone is going to be desynchronized. And some stuff is happening in Montreal and stuff is happening in South Africa, but the seminars, you're going to sync it to be morning, afternoon kind of thing, synced. So other than that, seminars are around this time, 2 hours. Live sessions again are typically around South African time, and everything is going to be on your program platform. So some of you that have gone through Camera's program before would have seen this platform before. But some of you that are new to our program, we use this platform called Fourways because it's really great. It allows us to manage and sync up time zones very well, deliver the course in a desynchronized fashion, meaning that we put the course, they do it at their own time. It's just a one-stop shop platform for us to use. So you're going to get an email that you're going to come back. So this is the platform that you went on to do your registration, you probably to do your application, sorry, when you applied. It's you applied on this platform because that's also a website. So you're going to come back on this platform and then an email to register, meaning that you come in, you fill out a short form, which will trigger the platform to set up a registration process for you to have an account to be able to use the program platform. The account is just a username and password. You create that once you finish the registration. Because what you did earlier was an application. You've applied to the program, you've been accepted in the program, and you have to register for the program. When you register, you're going to get an email that will allow you now to create a username and a password so you can come in and use the system and use the platform to see your courses, to do your courses, to do meetings, to see live events, all of the jazz. So every program material you're going to get is going to be on this particular platform. Okay, we're going to send you weekly reminder. This is just week 1. This is what the task is for the week. That's it. You have to access your platform to now get in to see what the individual courses are, the assignments, the tutorials, all of that stuff. So you're going to get an email, like I said, that will include this link to register. And all you have to do is go back to the platform and click on onboarding. And there's a deadline, so you have to do this by Tuesday next week, or Wednesday next week. And it would probably be best to do by Tuesday, by Wednesday, because I mean by Tuesday, because you'll be so far behind if you don't finish your onboarding so you can jump into the course. And it's very simple. You fill out a short form that triggers an email to you. And so you fill out the form, you click submit, you get an email that looks like this. And in the email, it will have a link, and that link is essentially taking you back to the platform to create a username and password. The username is the same email you used when you completed the form, right? So the same email. So I know most of you have multiple emails. If you use a different email here, it will kick you out because that means you're not registered. So whatever email you use here when you're doing the onboarding to register into the program, you enter that email here, enter your password, click login, and off you go. You're now able to access the event. So next time you come in to the app to the forward to the website, because it's the same website that you applied for, you will see this event is live today. You click or access the event, you click on that, and that will take you into the platform, which it looks like this. I'm using a different program platform, but it's the same thing. You see your sessions that are live and the schedule. You can see your fellow participants. You can even chat with them here if you want to. Doing a live event, you guys can do that if you want to do it on WhatsApp. So all your meetings, all your tutorials, every live event that we do is through this platform. Your courses are going to be through this platform. So for example, now, if we go into the platform now, all we're going to see is onboarding and the first week materials. If you click on the onboarding, it will look like this, essentially giving you what the overview, the team assignments, and all of the other onboarding resources. And you can just click on them and see if something is live, you click join, and then you join it live. So for week one, if you go in week one, day one, because every day you have bite-sized courses to do. A lot of these courses are really very nice, informative videos and articles. We're not, the goal is not to bombard you guys with knowledge. The goal is to give you just the fundamental knowledge that you need to now gain really useful skills. So a lot of the stuff you're going to be doing are really nice videos and very short articles and book chapters to read, and that's it. And it's sort of curated in a way that if you follow it sequentially, you are going to be ready to build a scanner when you come in July. So you go into your 4Waves platform, you click on your day, you go through the material, and you complete it. On Wednesday, you meet together with your team to go over the assignment and just kind of check in with everybody else, and you submit your assignments. It's a very fun and straightforward program. You're going to have your program overview, which is essentially all the information that we had online, but again, curated in a PDF. Very nice way to follow, and that's going to be on your onboarding sessions. You're also going to see a team assignment on your onboarding session. So I'm going to see if I could just demo that for a second. Let me see if I could quickly go over here. Oh, hold on one second. Oh, go away. Okay, so let me go to the website. So if you registered, when you come in, you're going to see access the event. You access the event, and it's going to pop you here. And if you are all registered, there should be about 43 of you in the program should be online. And we have a live event now, which is the onboarding session. If I click on that, it will tell me, if I click on this, I'm going to have to leave the Zoom and log in here, so I'm not going to do that. And you can click on day one, week one, and then you can see your courses. We have a short video. Watch the video. No, I don't care. Go away. Okay, so you can see the article that you have to read. That's there. Okay, very short, sweet article. Stuff like that. So you go through your material one by one, and then you're done for that particular day. And you go back to schedule, and you go to day two, same process. And that's kind of how it is. And you can go through the schedule and back. So if you are advanced already in the practicum, for example, you want to go back to the onboarding session to look at the onboarding resources, then you can actually go back and do that. So you can always go back and review materials. Anytime we have a seminar, we will always put an on demand. So once it's done, record it and put it back on demand here. So you can click on demand and review it. So like that, you're not gonna miss much. And also you're gonna be able to always go back and refresh and remember things. Okay. Let me just cycle back to my uh
Can I just, sorry, ask a short question?
sure.
Yeah, on your side from also it shows that I'm online, but when I press access the event, it says that it's only for registered user. And when
Yeah,
I
because
press,
you haven't registered yet.
I have registered. It shows that I have registered, and it shows me online from your side.
No, it's because Sipan, I added you as a on the team. I added you as a team member already.
But yeah, I checked the email.
Yeah.
Uh, Even when I
So
press register, it just opens the
Sipan,
same page.
nobody has registered. The registration is not open yet. The registration will open up after this onboarding session so that
Okay.
everybody can register. So the only reason why you can see that is because you being part of NYU Abu Dhabi is is added on. So you
Oh,
have to follow the same email like everybody else to register to now be able to actually fully access the program.
okay. Thanks so much.
Okay, no worries. Um, all right. So conditions for being able to participate and also get certification at the end of the program. Like I mentioned earlier, first of all, this program is free. You guys didn't pay anything to be in this program, but a lot of us took time and effort to create a very, like I say, exciting program. So we hope that you make the best of it. And so the best way to make the best of it is to put time in and participate. So if you want to get certification, if you want to be included in any of the outcomes, for example, a paper that may come out of this work, if you want to be included in that, then you have to show up and participate. So attendance is going to be required. The team leads are going to be taking attendance at weekly meetings and at tutorials and live seminars for the team. The attendance is mandatory for you to be able to do the foundation course, the build lab, and the practicum. Um, Submission of your team's lab assignment. So the team lead is responsible to submit the assignment, but everybody has to do it together. You have to contribute to doing it. So it's not one person doing the assignment for everybody, even though it's a team effort. You have to participate in all of the program deliverables, like the milestone, the capstone project, all of that stuff. Um, and you have to really adhere to the code of conduct. So if you follow all of this, you're going to get not only a certificate, but you're also going to get very valuable knowledge that you can really be able to start to do some of this stuff on your own. The online foundation is only 5 weeks, like I said, and it takes you through really a way of going from the basic principle of MRI to how to build so the components of an MR hardware, the subsystems like the RF and the gradient, especially focused on low field, how to acquire and reconstruct an image for low field, and challenges in low field. So this is where we start to look at performance. How do we do performance testing? How do we do quality control? Maybe learn a little bit more about what AI can do in terms of denoising. So the idea is that when you guys go through this 5 week course, then you're able to come in and really start to think fast on your feet and help put the scanner together. Like I said, the midweek labs is just dates. It's the placeholder. It's Wednesday, Thursday. It's up to your team to figure out what you want to do. Weekend tutorials again at 2 hours. You get overview plus assignment review and also question and answer. Um, the format of the tutorial. This topic's here, not what it is. The format of the tutorial is 1 hour overview of the lecture, like I said, a review of lab assignments, and Q&A with the trainees from trainees. Then we're gonna have 2 weeks of building stuff together. So you guys are gonna have this on your program overview. If you look at program overview, it actually has the full schedule on there. So we're gonna do a lot of looking at how other people have built systems. We had to have a build lab space when you're actually in your team putting together components of the system. There's going to be group exercises. This group exercises is going to require a lot of online participants to really be there participating, because during the build lab, if you're missing in action online and during the exercise, your lab team is kind of leaning on you to help with the exercise and you don't understand what they did, then it's not going to work very well. That's what I mean. If you're online, you're still going to have immersed experience in the build lab because we're going to include you in the exercises and in the build lab. There's a lot of seminars that are really high value seminars because they're focused on really helping you understand why you're actually building the scanner, what is the need, what some of the applications, even looking at the ethics of doing low field, for example, having a neuroradiologist talk about or some of the like say interpretation of how to look at low field images. And then the practicum is where we come back together to put together a toolkit that we are going to publish for everybody else to use. And we're going to give you a step by step. And if you look at your program overview, it already has more details on what you're going to be doing at each of these steps. I'm going to come back to the code of conduct again because this is very key. Like I said, we're learning as a team. So you have to be really active team players. With teams so small, they're not that big teams, but we don't want it to be one person pulling the weight of everybody else because you're not going to learn. Be active, participate in the program activities, the lectures, the tutorials. Don't be shy to ask questions. Do your reading. The reading materials are not that dense. We've been very selective in the reading materials we have because we know that we have people from different disciplines coming to learn. So we have curated the material so that it gives you really what you need to know and in a very bite-sized and fun way. So do your reading materials, make sure you keep your milestones, attend the build lab every day if you can, because that's when you're actually doing the build itself. And always be professional and responsible towards each other, even when you're online, even when you're in WhatsApp. We just want to keep it formal and not have any issues. There are roles for each member of the team. It's in your program or guide. So the team lead has a role, the team coordinator has a role, the team director, the site director, all of that is outlined there and the members. So that way you know who does what. Again, the code of conduct, it's on our website and also on the program guide. You're going to find all of this stuff on the onboarding session. And the program guide, like I said, details all of this stuff. All of the stuff that's on the program guide is actually on the website. So you must have read it if you went through the if you actually went through the website when you applied. One thing we're going to add to the onboarding session is when we progress towards the program and we get to where we start to write things up, then we're going to add in the authorship credits to teach you guys best practices about how to write scientific papers, best practices on how to really make sure you get acknowledgement and authorship. So we're going to teach you guys that and put that back on the onboarding session resources. So for between now and Monday, what you're going to do is you're going to create your account and forward. So you're going to get an email a few hours after this session is done, where you are going to go in and go back on the website, do a short registration form, submit that form. You're going to get an email. That's what Sipan was just thinking that he got, but you're going to get that email. You come back and you create a Forwards account. If you have had a Forwards account in the past, either by doing a program, going to conference, whatever, if you've had an account before, you don't create one. You still have to do the registration because it has to lock you into the system as attached to this particular program. And you can then, once you fill out that form and submit and you get the email confirmation, you can just go back and now log in to the account. You don't have to create an account because you already have one. Review the onboarding resources between now and Monday. In the email, you're going to have the WhatsApp link. So look at your team assignment and join your WhatsApp group. When you get to the WhatsApp group, start a conversation because you guys have to pick your team lead by the end of this week. So by Friday, somebody has to submit the first assignment. So you kick off that conversation, get to know each other, do the icebreaker. Just do that. Say hello on WhatsApp and get to know each other. You have to complete the pre-training survey to be fully registered. So we're going to go through the system. If we see people that haven't completed the pre-training survey by Wednesday, you might be at risk of not continue on the program. So this was in the welcome email that you got. And it's going to be also in the on onboarding session on 4Waves. Once you log in, the first thing you want to do is just go into the schedule and click on the onboarding and cycle through it and do the pre-train so if you haven't done that. Complete your course materials every week. It's on your schedule. And if you have any questions, our FAQ is really detailed, but if you have program-related inquiry, just shoot us an email. Make sure you put Imagine Program in the subject line. If you have specific questions about your own team, interactions or whatever you have, you can first go to your team supervisor, which is on the team assignment. You're going to see their names. They're also going to be on WhatsApp. And if you have more general questions about the program, like I said, you can shoot us an email. Again, always make sure Imagine is on the subject line. And so that's it for today. I am happy to, I'm going to stop sharing for now. And Marina, you can stop recording also. Thank you. I'm going to take any questions.